Good evening, everyone. Good evening, welcome to Unmuted. Welcome. Come on in the room. I ask you if you see this live, hear this live, share with your friends and family. We are unmuted. And so excited today for an awesome show. We have um, a great episode planned for you on tonight. I ask you to please like, share, follow the live, like, share, follow the unmuted page. Paterson, New Jersey, stand up. We are unmuted. It is 8 p.m. and we are unmuted on this beautiful Saturday evening. And I'm so excited today. We have an awesome guest that's going to be joining us shortly, and I'm just waiting for him to come into the room. But we are excited tonight to discuss the upcoming election. We have one of our candidates here who will be joining us. He is on, and I'm very excited to have him join us on today. If you see this live, I'm asking you to share it. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. I want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, Cammy, thank you, Cam. Just give me a thumbs up in the comments, like, share, follow. Let me know that you hear me loud and clear. I'm very excited tonight. Thank you, Sissy. I'm very excited tonight. Tonight we have a very special guest who will be joining us. I do see him in the waiting room, and I'm going to bring him on shortly. I'm just asking you guys. I'm gonna give him a minute to get himself settled, but I'm asking you guys to please like, share, and follow my unmuted page. Like, share this live tonight. We have a very special guest who will be joining us tonight. We're have the upcoming election happening May 12th, and he is one of the mayoral candidates for mayor. And he is coming on today really to talk to the community, to hear from you, to hear from the community. I keep hearing, I don't know if you guys can hear. Can you hear my earrings rattling? I'll take them off. I don't want it to be a distraction. Let me know if my earrings are rattling in the mic, and I'll take them off. But we have Councilman of the First Ward, Mike Jackson, who will be joining us tonight, and he is here to speak to his candidacy. I thought it was very important that we have the candidates come on to speak to why should we vote for them. And I will say, I'm taking them off anyway, Jen. I will say that I did send out invitations to all the candidates that were running for mayor. Good evening, Auntie. I sent an invite to all the candidates that were running for mayor. As you guys know, last week Alex Mendez was scheduled to join, and he canceled for personal reasons. Um, so tonight, Councilman Mike Jackson, he agreed to come on. I did invite the mayor, and I did invite candidate Mohammed. And those two did not respond to my invitation. So I'm very happy and excited to have Councilman Jackson join us today. For you guys know this is my podcast that I created for the community, thinking of the community, responding to the community, to make sure that we had a space that was dedicated to getting us the answers that we need, the answer that we need to make rational decisions, thought out decisions, the answers we need to some of the issues that's happened on the who, the what, and the where when it comes to our community's needs, our community's ask. Accountability is key when we talk about unmuted. This is about the community no longer being silent, but utilizing their voice to speak to power, to those people who we have elected, to those people who have been appointed on our behalf, making sure that they're answering to the call, to our needs, to our questions, and making sure that we are informed. So I am dedicated to making sure that this platform is speaking to that. This is not about any propaganda. This is not about rumors. These are facts. These are questions that you guys have posted on social media. These are threads that I've seen on social media that we're bringing here to get those answers. And so tonight, I'm very excited. Again, if you're on this live, I thank you for joining. I am Kimmeshia L. Rogers Jones, and this is Unmuted. Please like, share with your friends and family, because we have an awesome guest tonight, and I'm going to bring him into the room. Councilman Jackson here tonight. And we want to welcome him. You know, I don't have the hand clap yet, Councilman. We're gonna get there. So I'm gonna give you a round of applause.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you
Of
for having me.
course.
Can you hear me well?
Yes, guys, let me know that you can hear the councilman, okay? Please, in the comments, just say, Councilman, I can hear you, so that we know that he knows that you hear him fine. Councilman, just say hello again so they can say if they can hear you or not.
Hello, everyone. Sister Rogers, thank you for having me.
Mhm.
I'm on my page sharing your posts, and
Yes,
hopefully
please.
it's very well viewed tonight, so we can
Yes,
expose as much truth as possible.
yes, yes. And this is why we are here. Again, our platform is not here endorsing candidates or telling you who to vote for. We're giving you the information so you guys can make informed decisions when it comes to May 12th. As I
Absolutely.
stated, Councilman, I sent out the invitation, so I want to make that clear because I don't want people to be like, "Oh, you know how we can be," and
Mhm.
we know that the election is in full drive. So all of the hoopla, the rumors, the antics are well out there. But this, when I sent out the invitation to Councilman Jackson, it was a yes. It was a yes. It said I said, Councilman, I didn't even send out an invitation, a formal invitation. I saw him and I said, "Hey, would you be interested in coming on Unmuted to speak to?" He said, "Tell me the day, tell me the time." That was a yes. I will say again, I sent the invitation to Councilman Mendez. He was scheduled for last Sunday and he had to cancel for personal reasons. Mayor Andre did get an invitation, and so did Muhammad, and they did not respond. And so right now, the councilman is the only candidate that has made the decision to come on this platform to hear from the community. And we are unmuted tonight, Councilman. I hope you're ready, because again, you know, this our community, they're gonna have questions. I'm gonna, ask questions, of course, but we always allow the community to come on and ask their questions. And so again, Councilman, I asked him, Councilman, do you want the questions? He said no. Councilman said we're gonna have a real conversation, and I just want to make that clear that that was what we discussed. This will be a real, uncensored, unscripted conversation. Because the community wants to know. And so, Councilman, I'm doing a lot of talking. We're gonna talk tonight, but just quickly come on and introduce yourself for those who don't know you, right? And introduce yourself, let them know about your candidacy, what you're running for, your number on the ballot, and then we'll get right into it. Go ahead, Councilman, you have the floor.
So, first of all, thank you for having me. And yes, I'm often touting that there's never a time. Let me close this door right here. This is
Mm-hmm.
my mobile office. So
We
everybody's asking
see.
about our headquarters. This is the mobile headquarters, and I want to just close this door so we can get the full picture. Because our number is right there. Is 4A on the ballot,
Mhm.
and I want to be clear that this is how I operate all the time. Um, there is never a time to where I require anyone to give me preloaded questions. I don't need to know anything about what we're talking about in advance. I'm prepared to answer any question, anytime, anywhere, because questions don't change when you're speaking about truth and facts.
Mm-hmm.
The questions change often when you got to make up stories and you got to dance around it and you got to prepare for it. You got to have
Mm-hmm.
ghostwriters. Yeah, some people have their wives writing for them. You have former mayors in the audience sending text messages trying to help people answer questions. Listen, I'm here. I'm ready to go 100% of the time, and I'm always ready to go. And I appreciate the invitation.
Councilman, thank you so much. I want to let you know we're streaming. We are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and I'm streaming on YouTube. The questions are already coming in Instagram. They are asking the questions, and we're definitely. I let them know I'm gonna be switching back and forth to between Facebook and Instagram to make sure that the community's questions are asked and answered. Our platform is usually an hour, but like we did last week, we're gonna go. We're gonna go. And you'll tell me when, and then we'll end. But I really want to get to the community's questions as well. But I do have a few questions that I prepared that may be some questions that can community members may have. And so I definitely want to get to those because I really want to be able to get to the community's portion as well. And so one of them, Councilman, you're the councilman of the first ward, and I'm sure you've heard this before. But everybody is not watching or have been in the forums. And so these are questions that I hear, even conversations that people are asking me. Kimmeshia, who do you think I should vote for? Tell me who should I vote for? And they want to know the why when you give the suggestion of, look, this is who I think you should vote for. And so one of the things that people ask a lot, you've been a councilman of the first ward, and we all know the first ward, when it comes to the first ward, the fourth ward, and even the fifth ward, they are visually underserved, but also they lack in a lot of services when it comes to DPW, our streets, safety, and all of those things. And being that you are the councilman of the first ward, and a lot of people will say that if the first ward is an indication of what the city will, what your plan is in regards to pushing the city forward, a lot of people are saying that's not what they want, right? And so the question to you is, what are you going to do as mayor, if elected as mayor, that we haven't been able to see happen in the first ward? What can you do differently that you haven't done or been able to do within the first ward from what we've been able to see?
So just acknowledging that that is the general sentiment across the board, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate because the majority of the people in our community don't quite understand the roles. The roles of a councilman of a ward is no different than a
Mm-hmm.
councilman at large. We have one vote, and that's it. That's where our power lies.
Mm-hmm.
As mayor, you have a full support staff that works under and in the direction of the mayor. So every city employee works on behalf of the mayor. They don't work on behalf of the council person.
Mm-hmm.
And more importantly, I think it's very clear, everyone who watches council meetings can obviously see that there's it's a consistent 1 against 11. It's not just 1 against 9. It's
Mm-hmm.
1 against 11. And now with the new addition of the new city clerk, it became 1 against 12. So the conditions of the ward, of every single ward, is the responsibility of the mayor. It's the sole responsibility of the mayor. My role as a councilman of the first ward, and the reason why I encourage those members in the first ward to support me, is so that their best interests are overseen on the council from a perspective
Mm-hmm.
of oversight, on budgeting, on responsibility, on accountability. And I believe from that standpoint, my role has been fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
um even from the last forum that we just had, the question was asked, how do you grade yourself? And unfortunately, I had to grade myself a C plus, and I talked about areas in which I felt I was excelling exceptionally
Mhm.
well, where accountability, trust, transparency, exposing the community to all of the backdoor deals. I graded myself an outstanding A. But the reality of it is the entire city is failing. So the council as a whole is failing. I can't give myself a passing grade while council as a whole is a blatant failure to the
Mhm.
public. And it's not isolated to the first ward. I mean, every single ward is experiencing, its challenges, whether it's from dumping, overcrowding, crime. You know, if I'm not mistaken, the shooting that took place the other day took place in the third ward. So
Yes.
it's on the borderline of the fourth ward, but it took place in the third ward.
Yeah.
So, and now I have residents that called me from the third ward where there's hypodermic needles left out in front of their houses. People are pulling up, they're getting high in front of their houses in these cars. So no ward, in my opinion, is different than others.
Mhm.
There are wards that do have, more homeowners. Today I was walking in the third ward, and obviously, you have homeowners that are really concerned about their grass. They're concerned about the condition of their properties. But I could take you around the first ward and show you places that mirror that, if not better
Yes.
than that.
Mhm.
So people often spotlight or try to spotlight, some of the poor locations in the first ward, but there's mirrored spaces like that in every single ward in the city of Patterson.
Okay, and thank you for that answer, Councilman. I think a lot of people, their thought process and conversations that I've had. I don't want to make it like these are real conversations, and the concern has been looking at the plight of your ward, but to hear you explain it so eloquently and clear, one, you're only one vote. So when it comes to the conditions of all the wards, we got to look to the mayor and the whole council. And so I do appreciate you being clear on that, and that, what that will look like for you in that seat. Because I guess, some people will say, well, if you can't get the council to work with you now, what does that look like for you for mayor? You know, like,
So that's a major misconception. First of
mhm,
all, the
go ahead.
council and the mayor are not supposed to work in unison.
Okay.
The
Mhm,
the council and the mayor are supposed to be on opposite sides of the pendulum, and there needs to be balance for the scale to not be overtipped. Right now, we're
mhm,
overtipped because the council belongs to the mayor. And so all the poor decisions that the mayor is making, the council has zero accountability towards it.
mhm,
Hinchcliffe Stadium is a great example of that. Listen, every idea is a great idea. Listen, we would love to have, a space shuttle to Mars in Patterson, but can we afford it, and is it feasible, and does it return any value to us? So yes, the stadium is a great thing to have, but is it worth spending four times the amount of what someone else spent? I often posted a while ago a stadium in Texas where they spent 27 million or 30 something million dollars, and
mhm,
it was a 10,000 seat where we have 6,000. They had 25 VIP boxes, which we have
mhm,
zero. They have state of the art, facilities there, weight room and all of the above, where we have none of.
mhm.
And this is a brand new stadium built from ground up. We refurbished the stadium, and we spent four times the amount that they spent. Something eventually has to add up. I mean,
Mhm.
why in someplace else they're building something much better for far less? And that's because people are making a handsome profit off of our poor decisions. And it shows even in the last snowstorm. The mayor, he's refusing. One thing I have to give him credit for, he's very manipulative and conniving in his actions. So instead of being straightforward with the public and showing you exactly where our money's been spent, he's not allowing the release of the expenditures for the last snowstorm. And instead of allowing Dave Gilmore to be in position throughout this time, they negotiated a deal that a settlement arrangement that was kind of forced upon Dave, and a part of that settlement was a gag order, so Dave can't talk. And then it's supposed to be lifted once it's settled. So of course they're not going to settle until after the election.
Mhm.
He's trying to be very strategic to get himself back in office. He doesn't want to know people. He doesn't want people to know his failures. And this is part of the reason why he doesn't want to show up to platforms like yours and to uncontrolled, debates and forums.
Well, and I appreciate that. I cannot speak to to why the mayor didn't respond or anything like
That
that.
was my response. It wasn't
Yeah,
yours.
okay. I just want to make that clear. I can't speak to that. But I do appreciate your answer. Because I think there is confusion. When people are thinking like, oh well, if Mike can't get the council members to vote with him, and vote for changes within our city. As mayor, how will he? But for you to really explain how these two separate entities are supposed to work for the good, not so much we're working, I'm your henchman or I'm your buddy, and that we're supposed to, there's an accountability, which I'm from what I'm hearing from you is the council, and then the mayor, holding the mayor accountable
Accountable.
and to his role, and then the mayor has this higher role, not so much being rubber stamped by the council. The council should be, if correct me if I'm wrong, challenging some things that they see. Like you said, every idea might sound good, but when we talk it through, it's there's a moment where we say, what, I don't think that's for the city. So I don't, from what I'm hearing from you, the council should not be rubber stamping and saying yes to everything the mayor wants to do or put forth. We should really be holding accountable. There's checks and balances that should be happening, and we
Every
don't really
single
see that.
decision, every single decision the mayor makes, it should be challenged by the council. Every single decision, it should be challenged from a standpoint of whether or not it's good for the community.
Hmm.
And when you talk about the mayor having different level of power, that's not necessarily the case. The council and the mayor have equal power. The
Okay.
council has to exercise its power as a collective and
Hmm.
hold the mayor accountable. There's been times when we've done that, and then the mayor utilized additional power to veto, but that's only because he has certain council members lined up, because the council can then fire back and overturn the veto. And the way in which the council holds the mayor accountable is we don't continue to disapprove his bills list.
Yeah.
And recently, I'm not sure if you made note of it, but Alex Mendez is recently trying to challenge the mayor on his poor decisions, poor spending. And the mayor, much like Alex, they stole another play out of my playbook, where I said, Alex, months ago, look, but you've been his main cheerleader. You've been carrying his pom poms. I called him a water boy a long time ago, and now he wants to be in contrast of the mayor. And the mayor pointed it out, saying, "Hey, you're saying I'm not doing a great job, but you've been rubber stamping and co-signing and taking pictures." And he's absolutely correct. So Alex has never held his rightful place as a council, as a legislator. He has never written any real legislation. And I'm surprised the mayor let him get away with that whole notion of the $10,000 fine, because he was the council president, and the corporation council handed him the gift of that piece of legislation, and yet it's still not being enforced.
I don't know if it's just me, guys. Did the councilman just go quiet? Councilman, councilman. Yeah, I think you just went. Try again. Go ahead.
How about now?
Perfect. Okay, so this is what I'm gonna do. What I'm gonna do is go back and forth between my questions and community questions, because on Instagram I'm getting a lot of questions, right? So
Okay.
I want to ask this question, which
I'm here
actually,
for it. I'm here.
yes,
Any
it,
question.
it,
Nothing
Councilman,
is out of
the
off
community,
limits.
the community got a lot of questions for you, right?
Yeah.
And what I will, okay, you guys heard him, so maybe it was just me. So one of my questions was about your plan, right? And so I'm gonna read this question as it's written on Instagram. This is from one of the viewers here. Miss Roz Thompson, which is a community constituent here within the fourth ward. She's actually my neighbor. And you know, Roz does a lot of work within the community. And her question is that the city, Patterson is a large city. And one of the things she said, she was like, we don't want to hear, you know, and we hear this a lot. If you're elected, it takes time, and then 3 years later, nothing. Right? I know a lot of us heard in the last forum when they asked you to grade, the mayor said incomplete because there's still work to do. And I know a lot of people were like, wait a minute, like we've been 8 years and we're talking about incomplete. People don't want to hear, oh, 3 years later, it takes time, it takes time. Rod's question to you is, what is your plan? What do you plan to accomplish your first year? What is your plan to what do you plan to accomplish to push the city forward? You got 4 years. What do you plan to do the first year you get in?
So let me be very clear. One, we don't need 4 years to make changes. Okay. It's very simple. And that the simplicity is if you're filling a tub and there's a hole in the bottom and the water's leaking out faster than it could be filled, that tub will never fill. So all we have to do is plug that hole. Now, um, the mayor talking about he needs another opportunity. What he needs is more opportunity to steal from us. In my plan, and deprivatizing the government, all of the funds that we need to run our government is here. Our government is running poorly because there's a lack of funds. When you talk about a lack of recreational services, that at with $2.1 million for a recreational budget, when our budget is $330 million, it's shameful.
Mm-hmm.
So under my plan, we're going to deprivatize government. We're going to get rid of all of these contracts that we have that are abusing our residents, starting with the garbage collection. We have a garbage collection contract that's close to $40 million. And I've explained this a number of different times, but I would love to continue to explain it so the community can
Mm-hmm.
understand it clearly. If we buy our own garbage cans, the garbage company, they only send in 6 trucks a day. If we buy 10 trucks, and remember, we still have a fleet of recycle trucks. So it's about 5 or 6 of them. But if we buy 10 new trucks at $350,000 a piece, and let's just raise that to average that up to $400,000 a piece, 10 new trucks is $4 million. Of $4 million, these trucks will last 20 years. But if I expand that payment out for 10 years, that's only $400,000 per year. We
Mm-hmm.
now still have about $15 million a year to play with, to hire within. We don't need that kind of money. You know, if we bought 10 trucks and we armed 10 trucks with 4 men per truck, so that's 40 employees, right? And you multiply that by $100,000, that's $4 million. It's
Mm-hmm.
still $4 million, and $4 million. Remember, our target budget is $12 to $15 million a year. So I spent $4 million on salaries, and I spent $400,000 on trucks. I'm saving you $10 million a year, which is close to $30 million in that contract cycle. So I now have money to put other places. I'm going to do the same thing when it comes to road resurfacing. We're going to resurface our own roads. There was an article that was just released about $37 million that was spent on road resurfacing. If we bought a machine and if we spent, let's just say we spent $800,000 on the machinery, we could resurface every single road every single week. If there's a road that goes bad, we can go out there and resurface it the week of. We don't have to. What's up, brother? We don't have to wait 25, 15 years down the line for the road to be extremely in poor conditions in order to do it. And we don't have an outside contractor making a ton of money. We're going to do the same thing when it comes to the housing authority. We're going to reclaim the housing authority. The housing authority has let our community down. We have reduced inventory exponentially. So instead of at CCP, where we had 1,200 units, now there's 230 units. At Fifth Avenue, where it was 900 units, now there's 175 units. This reduction, not only is it hurting our community, right? But what it is, it's kind of like a trap being set up for outside developers, because now outside developers control the inventory, so therefore they control the supply and demand.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they are also controlling the vouchers, so they can treat our residents however they want to treat them. So if they want to, evict the resident because they don't like the resident, is contesting them and trying to form a citizen citizen uh, residency board,
Mhm.
they can do so and they can force people out. And this is the kind of things that's happening. I'm getting calls every day about people being illegally evicted and mistreated. And you also have to take into account that these landlords are charging our residents for parking illegally. So there's so much encapsulated in what's
Mhm.
going on with our Paterson Housing Authority, and you can mirror that in the parking authority. We have to create this symmetry, these unions between the parking authority, the housing authority, and fill the deficits that we have. So
So your first year, you're saying you will start with
garbage,
DPW with garbage.
DPW, rebuilding
Mhm.
DPW department fully, establishing that department, creating a streets and roads department, a true streets and
Okay.
roads department, creating a sanitation department. And I also forgot to mention that on top of the collection, because that $40 million is only for the collection, we still have to pay to dispose of the garbage. So we now collect it, then we take it to another third party company. We pay a third party company to collect it. Then they take our trash to another third party company who then pulls it off of that truck, puts it onto a train rail that's shipped down south. We're
Mhm.
gonna do that ourselves. We're gonna create our own transfer station and we'll transfer our own garbage and we'll reduce the cost of what we're spending and we will stop another third party vendor from making a handsome profit. Lastly, I want to point out like any business, the basic 101 of business is a 30 percentile. And I know many people may not understand that, but business is segmented into 30%. 30% is your cost, 30% is your employees, and 30% is your profit margin with a
Mhm.
10% differential. So if you're talking about a $40 million contract and 30% of that is a profit margin, that's a great deal of money that we're saving and we're putting back into our community. And instead of them paying their employees, we're paying homegrown Patterson people. We're paying them a fair, livable wage where people can afford to pay rent, not just pay rent, but also become homeowners. This mayor has gotten rid of 2,000 vacant and abandoned properties. He brags about it at every chance he gets. He has not created one first-time homeowner, not one.
Thank you for that, Councilman. The people, it's the follow up question would be: this sounds great, and why aren't we already doing it, right? But I'm gonna move forward because we see the questions coming. I got another question. So someone asked, Carmen Santiago is asking, what about lowering taxes? We hear about the tax abatements. We hear about, the developers getting their tax abatement and those things, those tax, that's helping them. But the homeowners don't. They're getting taxed. They're the ones that's paying for all the services. They're the ones that's furnishing all of the things that we see going on. Especially when we feel like developers, like you said, the mayor, one of his accomplishments is that he was able to get all of these abandoned properties that didn't they were eyesores in our community, and he was able, now we're down to less than 200, he says. But the question is, where is the benefit to the taxpayer, to the homeowner? What we've seen in the last 8 years, I have a friend of mine, Shauna Manridge, and one of the things she said to us in our group chat was that she has watched her home owner taxes go up almost every year in the last 8 years, specifically the last 4 years. And she's like, where is the relief? She was just talking about her and Tiffany talking about their tax bill. Where is, in your plan, where is the relief to the taxpayer, the homeowner?
So first of all, the relief comes about when we bring these services in-house, we're spending less money on paying outside contractors. So that there's an immediate relief to the residents. And the
Mm-hmm.
question, to answer the question of why aren't we doing it now, because if you look at the mayor's ELEC reports, all of these third-party vendors and contractors and developers, they're all handsome donors to the mayor. In fact, there's a dark money fund called Citizens for Paterson, New Jersey, something like that, is being ran by an employee out of the Passaic Valley Sewer Water Commission, Mr. Mike Murata. Mike Murata isn't even a Paterson resident, but you have developers giving in excess of $200,000 to these funds. Why would anybody give $200,000 to a dark fund that's paying for the mayor's mailers coming to your house? It's because they see an enormous benefit. So the tax relief comes about first of all from bringing in these services in house. The second aspect of this tax relief is by taking away these long-term tax abatements to these developers. I said it the other day in my at the forum. The moment we get elected, all of those abatements that did not have a certificate of occupancy before 23, we're not gonna those properties are not eligible for a 30-year tax abatement. They have to pay taxes. They should be paying full taxation. They're creating a tremendous strain on our community, on the water supply, on the sewer systems, on
Mhm.
police and fire, on recreation, on our schools being overcrowded, on the stresses that's added to our residents, our local residents, because they have this additional stress being added through the process of eviction, because all of these large scale developers, their intent is not to keep the market margin low. The higher the margins raise, the more their properties are worth, the more they can extract from that property. The only people losing this in this current equation is the residents. In my plan, the residents will come first. Obviously, we have nothing. There's nothing that we can do relative to the developers that we have, but we want them to be fair partners in the equation. We don't want them to be abusing the residents. And right now, that's what it is abuse.
And what I hear you saying, and that stuck out to me, is fair partners. And I think, a lot of the comments coming in here on Facebook and on Instagram, one of the viewers on Instagram said, um, at least Andre wanted to do something about the abandoned properties. And I think the consensus is that we need it. We did. There was abandoned properties. It made the community look bad. All of these things, bringing down property value. But I believe a lot of people believe that it just wasn't done correctly. And like you said, there's nothing we can do about the developers we have now, but we want them to be fair partners in
No,
this city.
there are things that we can do, and it's called accountability. It's
Mm-hmm.
called accountability. It's called not allowing them to abuse residents, not allow them to charge residents illegally for parking, not allow them to raise rents exponentially. I introduced a piece of legislation that the council wouldn't put on the agenda, and it's the mirror what Passaic did. Passaic just created a
Mm-hmm.
piece of legislation that if you evict a tenant, you're still restricted. You're unable to raise the rent for that apartment more than 5%. So what's happening in Paterson, there's an enormous amount of evictions that's taking place because they want to be able to raise the rents exponentially. If a tenant is paying $1,000 and rightfully so, they can only raise it 5%. They can't push it up to $2,200. But if they do an eviction, they can push that rent up. And this just speaks to the I don't want to say incompetency of the council, because this right here is a blatant level of corruption where the
Mm-hmm.
council is coercing alongside with the mayor, and they're working in unison to make sure that developers can do certain things to position themselves so that they can then turn around and get more money from them. And it's a sad situation, but this is the reality that we're dealing with.
Councilman, so another question I had, a lot of people, when you hear the name Patterson, it comes with, a negative tone. People, you hear Patterson, especially, when we think about the council, the city council. I think over the last few years, but specifically after everything happened with Najee Seabrooks, and we watched the council meetings gradually get worse and worse with the decorum, the fighting, the elongated speeches in between, the pull and struggle with the community. Me as a community member and others, when we come near, we feel like we're being censored and silenced. Um, People want to know, with everything, with the taxes, all of these things. But when I go out and I say Paterson, I don't enjoy the stares. I don't enjoy the looks that you get. What can you do as mayor to change that? A lot of people think that Andre has, really great TV presence, whatever, because that's what they're saying on Instagram. That Andre, at least he's not, his name isn't associated with scandals, and he's friendly and he talks positive about Paterson. But a lot of the pointing goes to the city council, because that Andre doesn't even come to those meetings. So when we see the fighting, we see it at the council. As mayor,
Well,
if you can't do it now as councilman, as mayor, like how will we change what that looks like at the council? Can a mayor change that? Because it doesn't look good and it doesn't feel good either.
so I definitely think the mayor can absolutely change that. Leadership matters, right? And let's just be honest. If Mike Jackson wasn't on the council, would there be any fighting? I don't think so. Like the majority of the fighting that comes about, I mean, if it's something petty about naming a street, or who seconded the motion and who moved the motion, but realistically, I'm the only person that's bringing that adverse position, and most of the time is them defending themselves through a lie that I'm exposing.
Hmm.
Maritza Davila, she was just at the forum the other day, and when I outlined the fact that she lied about not meeting the clerk prior to the interview, I never even got called about the clerks being interviewed. In fact, by the time I found out, the resolution was already written. They had already decided we're having a meeting to hire a new clerk. I didn't know anything about it. I'm supposed to be equally informed, but the mayor had a hand in it. And so when people say that he's not really associated or affiliated with scandals, that's absolutely incorrect. He's
Hmm.
had his hand in almost every single scandal. He had his hand in the Joey Torres scandal, right? He was the one who coerced with the developer and with somebody to expose that. We heard the other day how he charged Alex Mendez with not recycling responsibly. You can't point out anybody else that he's done that with. Alex contested it and won in court. He's part of the reason why his personal police guard was walking around my neighborhood with the attorney general's office when they initially did the investigation about the voter fraud ballots. And even then, they said, "Hey, we think we hear great things about you. You're a great guy. We think you may know something about something, and we want to know if you're willing to help." So I then had some charges placed on me. So there are very negative connotations that's
Hmm.
associated with the city, and I think that he has a direct hand in it. He never addresses the real issues at hand, even from the shooting on 10th Avenue the other day. Where was the press conference for that? There was none. Najee Seabrooks, you know, again, leadership matters and how
Yeah.
people treat people. And the mayor, quite frankly, is very disrespectful to the public if you don't align with his views. He won't take your call. He has harsh words for you. If you watch the Felix de Jesus family, the video with them outside of the Masonic Temple, he's cursing at them because he knows he has an armed guard standing next to him.
Hmm.
So, I think that there's a lot that with him not understanding the nuances of various parts of our community, the difference between myself, there's not one part of this community that I can't walk in. And that's
Hmm.
including the sixth ward in certain Arab sections where I can go there. I don't need to have an armed police guard. He can't go on 12th Avenue. He can't go on uh, 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 Beach Street. He can't go on Rosa Parks. He can't go on any of the streets that
Yeah.
have a negative viewpoint, and he won't go on those streets. He won't
I
even walk.
mean, Councilman, the truth of the matter is, and like I said, we're here to get the facts, and we're not gonna really placate to people's emotions and things like that. But I did want to acknowledge that because you hear, like I said, I'm going between two. I'm Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and
I love it.
and
I love it.
the people, you know, we can say, oh, I don't care what people say about Patterson, but I do care
I
about what
do as
people say
well. I
about
do as
Patterson.
well. And if
You
I
know,
didn't, I wouldn't be doing this now.
exactly. And when I go out and people have something to say, I'm looking, but I wanna be able to defend my city with facts that my city is not out here embarrassing us. And so that's important to people too. How are we portrayed out in the community? And I don't, people are gonna go back and forth about that. So we're not gonna come to a
Well, I just
agreement.
want to make this
Go
last
ahead.
point. I think the differences between, I know you're younger than me, but
A little.
during our era,
You're
there
right.
was still an enormous pride to be
Yes.
from Patterson. When you went out, you said it with your chest out. I'm from Patterson. That's right. And people respected it because
Mm-hmm.
we did things. We competed in everything, not just sports, but we competed across the board.
Right.
Right. But now our young people, if you ask our young people, their perspectives is Patterson is.
Yes.
And even my children, they don't have a desire to come back to Patterson, or to, it's just not, it's not in them because of how the city's made us feel. In fact, the other day I was talking to Mike Adams, and and a lot of those guys, Tim Thomas, a lot of the people who really, made it out, and were prominent people, they have such a disdain for the city. And it has nothing to do with the regular public. It has everything to do with how they've been treated by those in authority.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. And again, for those of you who are just joining, thank you for coming on. Yes, Patterson Pride, Patterson Proud. I'm very proud to be from Patterson, and I say it with my chest out. Okay, regardless of what media may put out, social media may try to put out, I'm very proud, and great things come out of Patterson. Great people come from Patterson. We have awesome, great children out of Patterson doing wonderful things. We have great leaders within Patterson, regardless of what we see going on. We have greatness. Greatness is in Patterson. So I say that boldly and proudly. And I don't need a news conference, a news press conference. I don't need a news slogan or nothing to tell me that Patterson is a dope place to be from and be a part of. I know that because I am Patterson. But so Councilman, we talked a little bit. You had brought up the shooting that recently happened on 10th Avenue. Unfortunately, this is something that has continued to plague our community with our young people, dying to gun violence, succumbing to this lifestyle that has been a detriment not just to themselves but to the community as well.
Mhm.
Um, what as if you're elected, right? Because public safety is very important. Being able to walk down the street, being able to sit on your porch, being able to walk to Dunkin' Donuts, because that shooting happened to the corridor going towards Dunkin' Donuts. Just being able to happily and freely be in your community without fear. I don't know if you saw, I posted a video of my granddaughter. We were at Montgomery Park. This was the day of the shooting, and somebody said gun, and you just saw people running. And she, I recorded her stating a very emotional message, that the kids just want to play and have fun, right? They don't want to deal with the shooting and people killing each other, people going to jail. The kids just want to be able to be kids and have fun. What is your plan for public safety and for our youth? If you're elected mayor, what is your plan for public safety and for our youth?
So, unlike any other candidate, my plan for safety has very little to do with police. It has very little to do with the police department and how we're policing our community, right? The aspect of policing that I'm going to enhance is the opportunities for employment. Really, that's about it. But public safety, the first thing is we're going to create outlets for our children. That's going to be the main focus. Right after DPW, we move right on to recreation. There's a building that's on uh, Market in Maine. It's called the Maine and Mart building. That building has been vacant for a number of different years. I had my campaign headquarters there, and prior to that, it was Gilda and Namir had the hair salon there. The
Mm-hmm.
upper floors are all vacant. Everything that you can imagine that has to do with media, from teaching children how to broadcast, how to do interviews, the true measure of journalism. If kids want to go there and shoot a podcast, if kids want to go there and record an album, um, music videos, everything that has to do with media will be in that building. And we'll put an internet cafe there so that we could create programming and opportunities for kids to have distractions from the street. The second location will be the former skating rink on West Broadway. That's been another building vacant for 20 plus years. We're just letting this stuff sit here while we give opportunities to outside people. No, we're gonna encapsulate that property, right? And turn it into a full sports training facility. A sports training facility that has every single sport that you could ever think of under the sun, from martial arts to tumbling to cheerleading to strength conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
speed and agility training, so that our kids could be able to compete on a broader scale, right? Where there's a sense of pride again that we put back into our community, right? But when it comes to the police department, right now, the state basically has a stronghold on how the hiring takes place. It's a civil
Mm-hmm.
service department. So, what my plan is to, which I wrote this legislation about 8 years ago and it never was implemented. The class two officers. Now you hear Mendez and everybody talking about them, but I wrote it. I wrote the legislation years ago. Um, so class two officers are regular police officers. They go through the full training of the police
Mm-hmm.
academy. They have 2C training. They can write tickets. They can do arrests. They carry a gun. They're full-fledged officers. The only restriction that a class two officer has is they cannot work full-time. They have to work part-time. And the next part of that is they are basically chosen and selected by the mayor, by the administration. So it's not a civil service process. We no longer will have candidates being eliminated because they allegedly didn't pass the psych exam, right? Right now, I have a young kid. He's a military police officer. He's an active duty military police officer. He works for our United States government. He's an armed police officer. He's an MP. He can make arrests. Do you know this? They would not let this kid on the Paterson Police Department. They're saying that he didn't pass the psych exam. He's
Mm-hmm.
already carrying assault rifles. He's carrying a sidearm. He's been a military police officer, and he can go anywhere else and become a cop. This kid says, I want to be a police officer in Paterson. So right away, I bring him on. He's a class two officer, right? He works part-time. He gains the experience. He goes through the academy, and then we can transition him into being a regular officer. We can hire up to 125 of those, up to 25% of our department. So in doing so, we now increase our police department by 125 officers.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these officers are taking care of, the low-level items, traffic stops. You're making illegal turns from the right lane, making left-hand turns from the right lane. There's a cat in a tree, a blocked driveway, a blocked fire hydrant. So therefore, people who are calling for a motor vehicle accident, they don't have to
Mm-hmm.
wait 2 hours. We
Right.
have
Yeah.
we have 125 officers dedicated just to responding for that. Now we can beef up our detective units. We can do the intel on who's bringing this drugs and things of that nature in the community. Then we have to address the demand, right? Where there is a supply, there is a demand. So we have
Yes.
young kids who believe their only option is to sell drugs. Okay, because we have police officers dropping their residents off into the middle of our downtown area, and these residents are drug
Mhm.
addicted people, and they're creating the demand, therefore making people feel like they need to fill the supply. So we're gonna
Councilman, the
yes.
question is to follow up to that because, and I know a lot of us, if we're following the election and following the forums and all the different conversations we're seeing, we've definitely heard you talk about the class two officers, and it's piqued a lot of interest. A lot of people are talking about it.
I see a
But,
question that
but
Zelly has right there.
and that's the question.
Yes.
What? Because
Okay.
remember, hold on one second, because the homeowners are asking, the things you're saying sounds good, but what does that look like for our bottom line?
Okay.
That
Let me
sounds
explain it.
good, but what does that look like for the budget?
So remember where we started. We started with the garbage contract. We're
Mm-hmm.
saving now a savings of excess of tens of millions of dollars. Right now, the vantage point that we have with hiring class 2 officers is we don't have to fulfill what's called fringe benefits. The fringe
Mm-hmm.
benefits are the health insurance that's required to give to them, and it's the retirement plan and things of that nature. Because these guys are working part-time, they don't have health insurance, they don't have a retirement and things of that nature. Now they're working as part-time employees, but they are fulfilling the role of a police officer. So what happens is once they transition into becoming a regular police officer, obviously we are adding that
Mm-hmm.
to the budget, but we're also increasing or reducing our expenditures in other locations. We're not
Okay.
spending out, $30 million a year on road resurfacing. You understand? Because now we have a dedicated staff doing the road resurfacing. Not only that, but once we put our transfer station in place, that transfer station is going to be an opportunity to make us money. What do we have around us? We have surrounding municipalities that also need garbage services. If
Mm-hmm.
we're collecting our own garbage, guess what we can do? We can collect garbage for Heldon. Mike Johnson would love that. We can
Mm-hmm.
also collect garbage for Prospect Park, for Elmer Park, for Totowa, if they want a cheaper service, right? And if we want to put more people to work, and we have a revenue generating entity now. And not only are we collecting their garbage, but we're also utilizing the transfer station to transfer garbage. Then we're beefing up our recycler division, which is then in turn reducing our overall tonnage on waste. That's gonna also make us money. So yes, we will be able to take that money and transfer it over to what we need to add in our recreation and our public safety divisions,
Mm-hmm.
because we need these things. There's often a cry where we don't have enough police officers. We have to have them. So we're going to find a way to pay for them without them burdening the taxpayer as
Okay,
much.
listen, again, community, we are asking the questions and getting the answers that you're requesting so you guys can make an informed decision come May 12th. Again, I want to thank you all for being here on Unmuted tonight. We have Councilman Mike Jackson. For those of you who just got here, Councilman Mike Jackson was invited to come and share his platform with the community and speak to the community on why he would should be their candidate for, or consider for their candidate for May 12th. And now I want to give you guys an opportunity. So please, in the comments, throw out your questions, because I have a plethora of questions. But if you have a question, no question is a dumb question. And Councilman Jackson is here and prepared to answer every question
Any,
that you may
all,
have.
and any questions, any
Okay. So
questions.
I want to encourage you. That so one of the questions here, because also, Councilman, people see you and they want to get to know you. I've known you for years, right, and been able to have really sit down conversations with you, but everyone isn't able to do that. And some people want to know that you're personable and that our community is a reach out and touch you type community. They want to know that you're someone that they can touch. And so one of the questions here from Miss McGuire is there any decisions you've made in the past? And I'm gonna take it, I guess, in regards to your elected seat, that you a decision you made in the past that you would handle differently today.
So when Andre first became the mayor, I took a position that the community chose who they wanted, and although I felt firmly that he was the wrong choice, I could not take a position of opposition against him because the community is who the community chose. So I was willing to support many of the initiatives that he started with. In fact, his first decision to hire Vaughn McCoy and Khalifa Shabazz, it was very difficult for me to contest. So early on, there was some items that I supported that I definitely would never support again. And the first thing was to take our self-insured insurance plan and turn it over to the state. It is now costing us in excess of $40 million. Now,
Mhm.
if you go back to the video when I did approve that and I did vote in favor of that, I said it then. That is not something that I thought was the best idea. In fact, Marge Sharon, who was our CFO at the time, she was totally against it. But I had to give the newly elected mayor the benefit of the doubt and the
Mhm.
opportunity to make those choices that the community chose him to make.
Mhm.
Now, after that, I made every attempt to speak with him. I made every attempt to go through the liaison through Vaughn, and they just refused to be, pliable. So it wasn't something that they were willing to, give a little bit here and take a little bit there. They
Right.
wanted what they wanted, and that's why you see me, function in the way that I do. If something is wrong, I'm not supporting it. But
And
you've seen me vote in favor of things that he's brought forward that I thought, might be okay for the community. But I mean, other than that, there's maybe one or two other decisions that I'm sure could come to mind.
so you would say that decision really shaped the way you present today, because you're very adamant on speaking up, and when something doesn't smell right or feel right to you or look right to you, you'll speak up. And so you're saying, stating that from that decision, it's helped shape the man that we see today that's fighting for
Well,
what he believes is right for the community.
I think what shapes me, the man that everyone sees now, is my experiences as a business person, right? So and this is not to sidetrack off of something old,
Hmm.
but what brought me to run for council is the mistreatment of my business.
Hmm.
The PRC, which is a slush fund that all the mayors have utilized, is over $40 million. It was a fund that was supposed to help and aid, small businesses. And I was the only black recipient, and I was only a few of, Hispanic recipients, right? Now, the everyone talks about the mayor's house, oh, this loan that I took, but it was illegally distributed to me. They held it back from me. They caused me to have duress in my business, and it was on the lowest scale of it. From their lending capacity was 100,000 to 3 million. They loaned me 140,000, and they illegally held it back. So that's what stimulated me to want to run. Because listen, if
Hmm.
you're mistreating me this way, how many
Right.
other people do you mistreat this way? So I got involved. I decided to run and started to learn. The very first week I was there, many of you may remember the issue with the trailer park at Buckley Park came up. So my first night on the council, I'm working like, wait a minute, this is not a good spin. $1.4 million for a trailer. I did the research, found out the trailers was worth 250,000. I was adamant against it. I went hard against it. I lost that vote. The only reason, the trailer, was derived. The next one, the giveaway for Pennington Park, a 30-year giveaway to give Pennington Park away to a third-party entity, Rising Stars, it was called. I still remember this stuff. Like, listen, I have a difficult time remembering people's names, but this stuff right here, I don't forget what it is.
Yeah.
Rising Stars, we gave them, it was a Bergen County organization. We were giving them Pennington Park for 30 years. I was staunchly against it. I lost that vote. The only reason it didn't get away from us is because TJ Best was on the county, and because they used open space, green space money, they couldn't give it to this entity. And then the next thing, the next selection was the choice on what to do with the tax credits. $140 million in tax credits. Tax credits are supposed to be like a defibrillator. They're supposed to start your heart back up. If you here you are, you fell down, you had a stroke or whatever the case might be, your heart is not running. The tax credits are like a defibrillator to bang,
Hmm.
jumpstart your heart, get you back going, right? And we initially they wanted to spend these $140 million in tax credits on a hotel at the hospital. I was newly elected, didn't know much about it, but what I did know was, so who's doing the hiring? How are we hiring local? Show me the hierarchy. Don't show me a whole team of cleaning staff we're hiring from Paterson and then everybody else comes from without. Show me where we're doing the procurement. Where are we doing the purchasing of the goods and services? Are we purchasing local so these local businesses can benefit and hire more people? Those questions never wanted to be asked, so they gave up the 140 million in tax credits. So then Andre gets elected. He opts to give away those tax credits to all of his buddies, the nonprofits that's around, the stadium. I'm the one who introduced Baye to Maritza in the League of Municipalities. They turn around and they take this deal that was totally wrong for Paterson, which we could have taken $30 million of that money, far less, and invested it in a 12,000 seat arena. I begged them every night, night in and night out for
Councilman, let me
yes.
ask you this because I'm one, I regularly watch the council meetings. I go to the council meetings, speak at the council meetings, and there's many of us because you see the chatter on social media and things like that. And even hearing you passionately speak on the things you've spoken out on, and many people will look at you on the council meetings, especially when you hear the chatter like, oh, he's grandstanding and he just want to hear himself talk and all these things. But even I can say today, hearing you today on this platform and the passion you have for standing up, for the community and asking those questions, what do you say to those people? Because some people just don't want to hear it, right? But what you're telling us, this is stuff, some of it is even above our idea of what a council is. Some people believe a council is just somebody that we can call and say, "Hey, I need you to do this," and you do it. But there's a real role and a job description that you seem to be very passionate about fulfilling. What do you say to those people who say to you, "Oh, why you always have something to say?" What do you say to them when they say that to you?
Well, I say the same thing to them that I said to the mayor, that I say to all the
Mhm,
other council members. Tell me where I'm wrong, and I'll resign. If
mhm,
any of these things don't make sense and any of these items are wrong, I'll quit. That means you don't, if you can challenge me on the validity of what I'm talking about. Now, for those who say, oh, he just talks and talks too much, well, if I allow them to silence me when they say, hey, your time is up, then that means you guys wouldn't know anything. You
right.
know, many people always talk about, well, if he's not on the council, we wouldn't know this, we wouldn't know that. And that's absolutely correct. Because prior to me being here, no one understood, the nuances of all the things that went on. These deals were getting cut, and some people were quiet, some people made deals. There's not one vote that I've compromised. I've never made one deal. I've never sided. And the I can recall the building that the TV studio is in. Well, we bought the building back from one of Joey Torres's campaign funders. We bought it back for $7 million, and the building at the time was probably only valued at 1.2 million.
Mhm.
So, you know, I've consistently given examples of us losing, and yes, I fought very hard, and I will continue to fight very hard. My question and my request to the community is,
Mhm.
trust me with your vote for mayor, and you will never have these issues again, because everything that I do will be 100% transparent, and I will be accountable for all of these things, and there won't be any backdoor deals. So when people ask, well, how can you get along with the council? I wouldn't need to get along with the council, but we will get along, because when Mondani was running for mayor of New York, right? Trump said, listen, if you vote for Mondani, I'm shutting. The moment he got elected, what happened? He was in DC meeting with Trump. They shook hands. They pieced it up, because there's no way, once you're the
Yeah.
mayor, right? Once you're the mayor, all of the choices and the decisions that are made has to come through the mayor's office. So the relationships and how they're fostered really comes about from the mayor's office.
So
How
let
he
me ask, let,
functions.
yeah,
Go
let
ahead.
me ask you this. right? Because, like you said, you want the community to give you an opportunity, consider you for mayor, and cast a vote for you for a May 12th, right? And some will say, with Jacksonville not, with everything that's gone on with Jacksonville, how will you run the city considering how things have turned out for Jacksonville? How can they trust you to be able to run the city without, things going awry?
I'm so happy you asked that question, right? Because let's consider what's going on with Jacksonville.
Yes.
First of all, I bought the building at 20, 21, 23 years old, somewhere in that range, right? And then it was an old man shop bar. I didn't buy it to become a restaurateur. In fact, my father and I collaborated. We bought it because my dad had left his job, and in the rear of the building, it was a warehouse. We were starting a vending machine business, right?
Hmm.
And the bar was rated for selling drugs. And this is probably back in 2099, 2000, somewhere in that range, because I know I opened in 2001. So it was a drug den that was rated for selling drugs. It was an old man beer shop place. It was a raggedy spot, right? Not only did I take that space from nothing, I didn't get any rewards from anybody. I didn't have any outside funding. I took that place and made it into a world-renowned location. Kevin Hart called me to shoot his TV special there. If you Google Jacksonville and Paterson and you hit video, the first thing that comes up is Kevin Hart shooting his TV show there. I've had the likes of David Allen Greer, Tommy Davidson, uh, 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 Paul Mooney, um, uh, uh, Charlie Murphy, and Sister Rogers, because you were there as well. When people like,
Often.
I'm sorry.
I said often.
Well, yeah, I know often, but I know Sundays when we had Liz Black and we had people like Donnie McClurkin, people coming into Patterson.
Sweet was the last show that I came to.
I had people coming from Baltimore, Maryland
Mhm.
to Paterson. I had people coming from Connecticut. I had officers from New Brunswick making reservations for 45 of their family members. What other business can say that? Now, I will say this, in the Palestinian section, they have people traveling from all over, but outside of that, prior to that, I was the only business. In fact, the mall, who's billionaires, right, who opened up the steakhouse, they've never been able to keep the steakhouse running. I ran and operated Jacksonville for 25 years, and by the way, I will be reopening. I will. That's a guarantee. And we closed due to targeting and due to COVID. I reopened and doing a New Year's Eve party, and I've always ran a successful business. I've been unfairly targeted not only by this administration, but to start with, when I did the expansion of $1.4 million, I was targeted by Mr. Jamie Dykes, who was the head of the Chamber of Commerce and who oversaw the PRC, and that's part of the reason why I ran. So when they held my funding back, I lost my chef because I had a chef during that time, right? Here's a young man who doesn't know anything about the restaurant business. I don't drink. I never drank in my life. All the cocktails that was served there was never any complaints. If you go on Facebook and Jacksonville page, we still have 4.7 stars. So where was Jacksonville a failure? It was
Mhm.
never a failure. In fact, Jacksonville was a huge success, one of the few success stories that we could talk about in Patterson. But people who want to paint this narrative, oh, he can't do this. No, at a young black Spanish kid from the city of Patterson with not having anybody, funding me. I built it from ground up. I built it with my own hands. You build it, they'll come. I had people coming from all over the country. I have people still today saying,
Yeah.
when the hell are you gonna reopen Jacksonville? So where was Jacksonville a failure? And not only that, let me not forget to mention, I had employees where other people, tout that they own a business. No, I had dozens of employees, 30 to 40 employees at a time. I would hire people who rolled up from underneath the jailhouse door. If they walked out and there was a program that the county ran. I forget the name of the program, but they took kids who was in probation. I took them in. I had a kid who was a Trinidadian kid who worked for me for like 12 years. So where was Jacksonville a failure? People that talk about Jacksonville being a failure, they're just haters, and they don't understand the
Well,
nuances. They don't understand the
I think most.
difficulties of business.
Yeah, well, that is true. Everybody doesn't know all of the ins and outs of business, but I think the fact of that your doors are closed, and
Well,
so
I'm
for
closed because I
people,
was targeted. I was
that's why
illegal
people will look
targeted.
at that. Hmm.
And let's not forget to mention this. All of those things that I did, all of those things that I accomplished, it was in an environment, in a community that has the medium household income that's at a poverty level of 25 to $35,000 a year. The crime rate is still extremely high. I never had no incidents that took place in Jacksonville, maybe a scuffle here and there when I started letting younger crowds have parties,
Hmm.
but I never had a 911 call. I'm the only ABC license holder that has no police infractions. So to say Jacksonville is a failure, they don't understand the challenges
Well,
that I had to deal with in the city, and they don't understand the business.
so let me ask you this question. Because it seems like you said, you were targeted, and all of these things. With you being mayor, if you're elected and you're mayor, right, and if you have all these targets on you, if you have people who really don't want to see you do well, how can we as a community count on that you'll be able to get the job done? Like,
So
how are you going to galvanize those people? Because I mean, a lot of those people will still be working for the city. How are you going to galvanize those people to work with
those
you?
people we working under the mayor, under a new
Mhm.
guidance of a mayor that's not vindictive, that's not petty. Alex Mendez said it well the other day. His mayor is he's childish, he's vindictive. You have employees that are afraid to stand up for certain things. So that's the first thing. And more importantly, I don't want to say that I have a great deal. I have an enormous amount of people who enjoy my success. I would have never been in Jacksonville for over 25 years without people celebrating what would I do at Jacksonville. There's a small handful of people that saw me as a threat. That one, the initial target had nothing to do with politics. It was a simple. It was an old white man that was in charge of money that what did not belong to him. Did not see a young black person being in this position. Wait a minute, you're doing a $1 million expansion. Like who do you think you are? In fact, his exact words to me was, "Who do you think you are, and why should I give you my money?" He classified
Mhm.
the PRC's grant funded money that's provided to Paterson to help small businesses. He classified it as his money. So yes, we need new leadership. We need control
Yeah.
mechanisms that's going to help. First of all, if anybody is an aspiring young entrepreneur, you would love to have somebody like me in place who knows how it's done, who knows the challenges that you're going to face, who knows exactly the obstacles that you're going to face. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove those obstacles. I'm not going to continue to be vindictive and say, "Oh no, I didn't." No, I'm going to make sure that with the opposition that you face won't be the same opposition that I was forced to face because I
Hmm.
didn't have the support group here, not in the council, not in the mayor's office, and of course not outside of within the municipal government. So yes, everyone when people have a problem, I'm the person that they call. When people are getting evicted, I'm the person that they call. When people need
Yeah.
something to happen, when an officer is being poorly, mistreated, those same officers that might talk negatively about me, oh, he don't like officers, they're the same ones that are calling my phone because they're being passed over for a promotion or a pay increase or being unfairly targeted. I'm the person that they're calling. So I say to the residents, wouldn't you like to call me when I have the authority, the
Yes.
power to make these substantial changes in your life? As of right now, I'm just one of nine that's not working in your favor.
Well, Well said, Councilman. And a lot of people, one D just said, 25 years is a blessing to be in
And
business.
it's not done. The story's not done. Jacksonville will return. In fact,
To
let me
be
tell you this,
continued.
Sister Roberts Rogers. I was in church today, and I can't even front. I was extremely inspired. The band that was there and the atmosphere. That first of all, Highway. Let me just say this: Highway is another. That's a whole nother level of jubilation and you know um just celebrating through the music ministry, and they were having a grand time in there, and it reminded me of all those nights when people like yourself came and blessed the mic in Jacksonville. And I'm excited to make sure those doors get
I did
reopened.
a little something, something, y'all. Nothing
Little
big.
son.
It was just
Yeah.
open mic, and I just grabbed the mic. And I wasn't,
But listen, remember, I really didn't know who you were at the time. You
you
came in there
know,
and blew the pipes off. I was like, wait a minute, who is that? I went and I asked you what. Let's tell everybody what happened.
no, no, no.
I said, listen, I need you to be here at Jacksonville. What do I have to pay you? It's like, no, I don't do.
I
No, you
think for
got,
church.
yeah.
That's it.
So
But you know what, Mike? Like they said, 25 years is a long time to be a business, even if
from
you weren't
ground
going to
up,
open up again from the
yes,
ground up. And I can honestly say, this isn't, a plug or an endorsement of any kind. I'm speaking as a customer. I was there for the Friday, for the after work barbecue, all you can eat. I was there
classy,
for yes, I was there for the open mics. I was there for many shows and many brunches. This was a place that we can really go, be an adult, have a great time in Paterson. I didn't have to
in
go
Patterson.
outside, didn't have
That's
to go
right.
to Newark, didn't have to go to Edgewater. A beautiful atmosphere, delicious food. And like you said, Mike, I've never been to Jacksonville where there was an issue ever. And so I can say from where I sat as a customer that it looked like success, tasted like success, smelled like success to me,
And
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 sounded
and let
like
me
it.
let me let me point this out because I mentioned it earlier. I lost my chef during that
Mhm,
delay, right? I became the chef. Listen, yeah, I could cook, but guess what? I did my own research. I did my
mhm.
own homework. In fact, the chef that I worked side by side with him, I learned all that is to know about chefing. So if you enjoyed the food at Jacksonville, trust and believe, them collard greens had my hands on it.
Listen,
And
collard greens, baked mac and cheese, catfish, whatever you want. Them wings, those grilled wings, man. Listen, don't get me started.
that was all my
Don't get me
invention.
started.
And my sweet potato cheesecake, I was the only one who made it. I never gave that recipe to anybody. None of my employees can tell you they made the sweet potato cheesecake. And the sweet potato cheesecake was a staple within itself. That's a business that I could have started easily within itself. It was never a time where I had it in stock and we didn't sell out. So for anybody to make a claim that Jacksonville wasn't a success, they simply wasn't a part of Jacksonville's
Yes.
existence.
I'm gonna ask a few more questions, Mike. But before we do, guys, I just want to pause for 1 minute. I always like to do our community um call out to make sure that we speak to who's doing what within our community and speak to the different organizations. One of the things I want to point out, this Saturday, we have a group of community members who are hosting the Women and Children's March protected by dads. This march is being curated by different organizations, different activists and advocates within the community that want to see our communities as a family. We understand how important the village is. And so when we're talking about Women and Children's March protected by dads, I know I said this last week and I'll continue to say it. This is an all hands on deck event because our community needs all hands on deck. And so I want to invite you. This is going to be our community spotlight today. I want to invite you, community, to come out on Saturday, 9 a.m. The march will begin at the Masonic Temple. We'll be marching from the Masonic Temple to Eastside Park. And from there, once we get to Eastside Park, they will be hosting a free family style cookout. You know how we like to do cookouts, with free food for the community. We'll have resource tables to tell you about all the different organizations and resources within the community. We will be giving out prizes to the kids and families, electric slide, jump rope activities. This will all be going on this Saturday, starting at 9 a.m., where we'll be marching up to the Park, Eastside Park, and then right after the march, we'll be having a cookout. And so I want to encourage you to come out. This is a free event. When people say, "Oh, there's nothing happening in Paterson," remind them that there's always something great happening in Paterson. And if you know, you know. So share the information. This is the Women's and Children's March protected by dads. That's happening this Saturday at 9 a.m. I want to ask you, Mike. A lot of people are having issues parking. One of the questions that was asked was, what's going on with all of these parks? Who's in charge of the handicap parking? Because we're seeing, I mean, there's blocks where the only parking is handicap.
Well, I think many residents have been forced to find ways to manipulate the system. Like, listen, my dad's like 70, 74, I think. He has the ability to go grab a handicap
Mm-hmm.
placard, but he chooses not to. Then you have, like, we have neighbors, they just they abuse the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And but people have been forced to do that because we've allowed for so many illegal things to happen, right?
Yeah.
You see these houses that they get approvals to build two-family houses. Then you go there and they got those little basement apartments in there. So now not only do you have like households that have, family members that have multiple cars, right? You also now have, two other, entities downstairs in the basement. So neighborhoods are becoming more overcrowded. One of the things that we're going to do under my leadership is we are definitely going to implement residency parking. We're going to stop these car lots and car dealerships from parking
Mm-hmm.
cars on the streets illegally. We're going to stop people from, when you have all of these newly imported people that have Pennsylvania license plates and New York license plates. Listen, you live here, great. Come down. You're gonna have to get yourself a permit, for residency parking. I
Yeah.
introduced that legislation years ago. They put up one sign on Patterson Street near
Yes.
Triangle Village
Tiger Village.
and
Mm-hmm.
never implemented it. But we desperately need residency parking because people come and they park in front of your house. They walk like Prospect Park and Heldon. I get calls all the time from people on the borderline that say, listen, they come and they leave their cars here because we don't do anything. They won't leave their cars over there because they have residency parking, and they won't allow them to just leave their cars parked for excessive periods of time. So that's a part of it. We also got to stop the landlords from doing this illegal charging for parking. The towers, they're subsidizing. You figure if they have 1,000 apartments and they got 700-800 cars and they're charging another $250 a month, that's a great deal of money that they're
Yeah.
making, on our people. So all of
Okay.
these residences, we cannot allow them to continue to charge for parking.
Councilman, I hear you say a lot. You wrote legislation, or we have legislation in the books for this. What's going on with it? But it doesn't seem like the things are being enforced.
That's
And
exactly it.
so, what? Who's responsible for that? And
The
how will
mayor.
you, as mayor? So, how will you, as mayor, and get those things enforced? How will you do
So,
that?
so, the mayor's office is responsible for all the enforcement, every single piece of enforcement that's under the sun. Whether your grass is 6 inches long, there's an ordinance on the book that says your grass cannot be longer than 6 inches. So whether it's grass or weeds, if it's more than 6 inches, that's on the books that it shouldn't, it's illegal to have it that way. So from that to jaywalking to putting your garbage out inappropriately. Everyone is required to have a receptacle. And us
Hmm.
doing our own garbage, listen, we'll provide the garbage cans. We'll even go out to UEZ and allow them to do the same thing we do with the recycle bins. But you're going to be required to have a garbage can with a lid. We're going to reduce this rat problem. We had a real rat problem in the city of Patterson.
Yeah.
So, enforcement, the other thing that I talked about the other day, I'm going to require every single LLC right now, every non-owner occupied house, the ma- the majority of the houses, 99% of them are owned by an LLC. So you can't get in contact with the landlord. No, we're going to
Mhm.
require you to obtain a business license. With that business license, we're going to need points of contact, emergency contact, your cell phone number, your email address, and you will be held accountable. If you abuse our residents, we will not renew your business license. You won't be able to rent another apartment here.
Mhm.
So in Wayne, the Days Inn in Wayne, they were our service provider for us. All the people who were homeless, sleeping on the streets and things of that nature. If you needed emergency sheltering, the city has a grant that we get and we pay the Days Inn in Wayne, and they have another location in someplace else out on Route 46. But uh the city of Wayne said, listen, you guys are bringing all these people from Paterson over here. We don't want that. They did not renew their business license. So here it is, a company went out and bought a hotel. And the city said, no, we don't care. We're not renewing your license. So they had to shut that hotel down. We have to become, you know,
Mhm.
diligent on how we're allowing for people to do business here.
Yeah, we
If
teach
you want to
people how
make
to see
money
us.
here, you
Mhm.
have to respect this city. If
Yes.
you're not going to respect the city, we're not going to allow you to run a business here. That's
One of
it,
my
point blank.
yeah, one of my almost one of my final questions. We downtown. Um, so when we look at from Madison Ave, Main Street, and up towards Crooks Ave, that Main Street area is, oh my God, the businesses. And this isn't like, oh, I love it. I think it's beautiful the way they have everything structured, the businesses and everything. But then when you go from St. Joe's Hospital to downtown Broadway, it's night and day, Councilman.
So the first
What
thing
are we doing
is,
about that?
okay, so the first thing is this. One thing you have to give them credit for, they're putting their own money together, they're
Mhm.
pulling their own money, and they built this place little by little. People are trying to give the current mayor credit for that. Remember, Gorgas moved out of Patterson 20, 30 years ago, you know,
Mhm.
and it was a transition that, you know, people that were coming from other countries were investing, and they grabbing money from other places and investing, and they're holding themselves accountable.
Right.
What we have on Main Street, we're not holding the businesses accountable, the property owners accountable. We don't hold them accountable for their garbage that they put out. We don't hold them accountable for the vacant spaces that they have upstairs. This is what part of my plan of what I'm talking about, and capturing that property on the corner of Main and Mark is it's the premier location. The bus lines run through there. It's minutes away from the train station, and we've allowed it to become a slum. We will no longer do that. The facade program, is another program that the UEZ used to run. I don't know if a lot of you saw, but I'm sure you remember, Sister Rogers. I held the UEZ director very accountable. I called him incompetent. He didn't do anything, to pull the businesses. Penny Forestieri used to run the UEZ by
Mhm.
herself. He had a full accompaniment of employees, and he failed the district. No newsletter, no list of the businesses, no accountability. When Penny was there, and this is part of what I participated in. It's part of what helped me do my expansion to
Mhm.
Jacksonville. I wrote grants. I was a grant recipient for the facade program, the
Mhm.
sidewalk program, the awning program. So we have this ability to hold people, businesses accountable. We can't let them just sit these buildings, let them sit, decrepit and not upgrade. And no, we listen. You want to run a business here, you want to make money here. Well, there's a standard, and you have to raise the bar to that
Yeah.
standard.
I mean, because many of us, we see Broadway and Main Street. It's a scary situation. I mean, I love Broadway pizza, but lately I haven't been wanting to be down there because of what we're seeing with the loitering, what some people say, they see drug activity. I can't speak to that,
Oh, there's
but I'm
there's
speaking
there's
to
crazy drug
what I'm
activity,
seeing happening down there.
violence, people
The
having
community
guns,
want to feel safe. Like, Mike, I live here, I work here, I worship here, I shop here, I eat dinner here. Like, I love where I'm from and I want to feel safe. I people live downtown now. Like, these are residents that live downtown, because it's apartments and stuff, and they don't feel safe. And I think that's a big thing. Like, and as mayor, people want to see attention paid. City Hall is right up the street. You can't
and
go
it, and
into
it's falling apart.
McDonald's.
It's falling apart.
You can
So
go
let me
into McDonald's.
I want to say this, and I know we're getting ready to wrap, right?
Yeah.
Um, one of all the candidates, I'm the only one with the ability and the past experience of building, taking something that was nothing and turning it into something. Okay, and that can be duplicated and expanded upon within our city. There has to be a pride that's restored in Paterson. There has to be a dedication to Paterson and Paterson only. Listen, our current mayor, his intent was not for Paterson. His intent was selfish, and it was only his own greedy ambition to be a congressman, and he sold us out. So if he is definitely not the choice. The other option, if you want this place to turn to if you don't think it could be worse than what it is, trust me, it could be much worse. Every day will be a fiesta. Every day will be, somebody running red lights and crashing into people's cars. Listen, if we want to have somebody that's going to be accountable to the people, that's going to have vision, that's going to be inclusive, that can sit down, if there's not one person that could say they've had a disagreement with me, and they couldn't come and talk with me, and we couldn't hash things out. Yes, I'm not gonna bend to something that I believe is corrupt or inappropriate or wrong. I'm gonna say what's wrong, and if you can't tell me and contest the fact that what I'm stating is not correct, then there is no reason for us to, say that we can't resolve a conflict, because I'm not going to let you just treat the city any kind of way. And that goes for everyone, including residents that live here. We're going to provide dashboard cameras to over 1,000 residents. Let you ride around. Somebody drops a cigarette butt out their window. Listen, give me that flash card. We're gonna charge them, and we will give you 50% of the money. And the graffiti that's going on, that will be 100% reimbursement. We'll go out if anybody helps us capture and prosecute the graffiti artists. The fine that's imposed will be 100% reward going to that person. We cannot continue to allow people to defecate all over our city, to mistreat our city. And in many occasions, the people that are doing this, they're not from here.
Mm-hmm.
So I am your dedicated servant. I'm the person that I know for sure. It's not going to take me 4 years. You can hold me to this. Again, the mayor can't do it. The council can't do it. If any of you out there can do it, if any of you can say and contest any claim that I've made, I challenge you. I will resign. And Kimmeshia, I must say this last thing.
Go ahead.
I gotta challenge my brother Teddy Martinez. Teddy Martinez is challenging me on the fact that I said I'm gonna donate my entire salary away to a nonprofit. If anybody can go back and find me that quote, find the video, anything me saying that, what I said was I'm going to donate proceeds from my salary back to the public. Now let me tell you some of the things that I've done. I pulled up on citywide towing. Your car was towed. Here, I'm paying for it. I pay for it. I've had residents that are being evicted. $2,500. We can't have this single mother get evicted. I pay for it. I've done that on numerous occasions. I've sponsored all kinds of programming. I've given away more than a salary than I've made possibly. And I've even done so in the duress of them putting pressure on me to lose my business. There's not one thing, not one item, one claim that I've made that they could challenge me on. There's not one vote that I've made. And I'm telling you now that I could save the city, and there won't be any claim moving forward that you can challenge me on this way. you will say, and everyone else will say that supported me, that he said he was going to do it and he did it. He was right. We can
Yeah,
change this place. We just got to be dedicated to doing it.
I think people are more concerned about what you can do, when you say you being mayor, than whether or not you're going to get back your salary. I don't think that's on the high priority list for people. They want to know that you're going to do the things that you said. I think one of the comments said, we want to know that what you say, you're going to do it. And if you can't do it, that you say that to the community, this can't be done. We have to go another route. One of the things that I will acknowledge from you, Councilman Mike Jackson, is that you do ask the tough questions. You do your best to hold people and hold the community and the leaders accountable. And for a lot of people say, if you didn't ask the questions, I don't really think we would be where we are as a community, where so many people are now asking questions.
Correct.
I think there was a
Correct.
time when people didn't know they could ask questions, and they see you doing it. And I will say, I believe that a lot of why we're seeing so many community members now asking, well, yeah, why is this? Is because of what we've seen you do. So community, you've heard it here today. As I stated, this is unmuted. This is not me endorsing Councilman Mike Jackson, but Mike, or unmuted endorsing him, but Mike Jackson coming on here today to speak to you about why he should be your choice for May 12th. You heard it from Councilman Mike Jackson. You heard it straight from his lips. You asked the questions and he answered it. Councilman Mike Jackson is 4A on the ballot. If you are looking for a candidate, Councilman Mike Jackson is asking that you consider him. What I will say to you, community, continue to ask the questions and make a choice, make an informed decision. If we are ready to move the city forward, if you're ready to see things change and improve within your community, I want you to consider all the information you've been provided and go in the booth and make a decision. Someone said in the comments, hey, there's a lot of people on this live, but we need people to show up to the polls. And that's what's most important. Not how many people are on live, but how many people go into that booth on May 12th and cast their votes. So I want to say to the community, we have Councilman Mike Jackson, and we also have the other candidates who, again, I did invite to be a part of the platform and have their moment with you. And as I stated, one canceled and two did not respond. Today
Some
we have
people don't
my
have it. They can't stand on their record. They don't want to be here with you. One, let me thank you, Sister Rogers,
I
for taking the
appreciate
time
it.
out of your schedule because your advocacy for the community speaks volumes as well. I want to also send a special shout out to the Senator Benji Wimberly for hosting this next upcoming debate. All of you, listen, this is a debate, that a must-see debate. Is not a forum, it is a debate. And it will be in a
Oh,
huge
this is a debate.
setting. Correct. It's a debate,
Oh,
and
I'll be there.
everyone is confirmed. The mayor has ducked barbershop talk twice. He's now confirmed. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls out at the end because he cannot stand on his record. He cannot stand on his record. He can't answer tough questions. I'm willing to stand on everything on all the records that I've made. And listen, is a debate that all of you guys could come and watch in person, or you can tune in live. And I also would like to do another showcase to actually outline my full
Mhm.
platform because I believe I have an enormous amount to offer. I have an app that's already been developed for our youth and the transportation services. I mean, there's so much that I have in store for us. I need your support, Paterson. I need you to come out and vote. And listen, again, Sister Rogers, my hat goes off to you. Thank you very much for having me. And I hope I didn't
Councilman.
disappoint.
No, we listen. Unmuted is for the people. We want to hear the truth. We want our questions answered. And I will say that you answered every question that the community had, whether good, bad, or indifferent. You answered and you took accountability. So we appreciate that. Community, May 12th. For Unmuted, we will not have a show next Sunday. I'm going to take a break because we've been going strong, And our next time we'll be back on will be May 10th. May
Right before the
10th.
election. Who's that?
So,
Who's willing to
listen,
come on?
we coming out here May 10th. We're gonna get into the election. We're gonna break down these candidates, and we're gonna encourage each other to go out into the polls. Guys, talk is cheap. What we need to see from you, community, is action. Once you heard it all, make your voice heard by going into the polls and voting. And one that you can consider is Mike Jackson 4A for mayor. So
Well, actually, it's really the only choice if you want Paterson to change.
Councilman, I'm
And
just letting them know
these are
you
my
are
words,
one
not
of
yours.
four.
And let me say this. Here's a cheap plug. For anybody who want to see us on location, we will be in your neighborhood. This is our mobile headquarters. We'll come to you and we'll pull up on you. If there's any questions you have, you know, we have the mini rolling around, and we'll also have the mobile headquarters rolling around here. So anybody that has any other questions that didn't get asked tonight, I'm willing to answer any questions. Anybody who wants to come on and do another live, listen, we have about, I don't know, 10, 15 more days, 12, 15, 17 days left for the election. Let's go, Paterson. Let's get out and vote. Sister Rogers, thank you
Thank you,
very
guys.
much.
We
Thank you.
are unmuted. Everyone, as April Brown said here, may the best man win, right? But community, you choose. This is not by happenstance. You guys are going to choose who you want to represent you. And I encourage you to do that. Thank you guys for being here. Councilman Jackson, thank you so much for being unmuted and being
Thank
a
you.
guest on our show. Community, I love you. Paterson, New Jersey, stand up. Everyone, have a wonderful night and a beautiful week. I'll see you guys later, May 10th at 8 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, Councilman.
Good night. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Good night, everyone.